We are ready. Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council in regular session. It is Monday, May 20th, 2019, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Herrera?
Here.
Councilor Parsons?
Here.
Councilor Smith?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Freeman?
Here.
Councilor Reed?
Here.
Councilor Kohler?
Here.
Youth Councilor Ferris?
Here. Thank you all. If you are able, would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all so much. First up tonight, under special orders of business, is Annie Olivia here? I did not see her. Okay. I have a proclamation for the Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality 20th anniversary, so I'll be reading this into the record, and this will be presented at their luncheon on Thursday noon for the 20th year of this organization. Whereas in Keizer, Oregon, we are a community in which all people are valued and treated with dignity and respect. And whereas the Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality was built on the pillars of equity, accountability, and unity. And whereas in 1999, the Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality was founded by Eduardo Angulo and a group of multicultural activists to provide greater support for youth of color with goals of closing a wide student achievement gap, addressing English as a second language programs, and decreasing disproportionate dropout and expulsion rates. And whereas the Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality works for increasing outstanding educational experiences for underserved youth, teaching Latino parents how to help and advocate for their children's success, and connecting teachers and administrators with parents. And whereas the Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality has built partnerships and advocacy with Latino families, schools, and communities, improved equitable educational outcomes, and supported strong, stable, and healthy families and communities. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Keizer, and the Keizer City Council assembled in regular session to hereby proclaim May 22nd, 2019 as Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality 20th anniversary celebration, and call upon all residents to continue the work of the Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality to support the success of all students and their families. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Keizer this 20th day of May, 2019. So this will be presented on Thursday at noon, along with leaders from around the Salem-Keizer area and the state, to celebrate 20 years of the Salem-Keizer Coalition for Equality. Bless you. That takes us then to committee reports, and I believe we'll start off then with Matt Lawyer, who updated us on the Clyde Creek Watershed Council.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff. For the record, Matt Lawyer, Clyde Creek Watershed Council
Say
President.
good morning.
Did I say morning?
Yeah, you did.
What?
It's a run-on day, like a sentence, right? I don't know what I'm
Seriously.
thinking. It's morning somewhere.
At least we thought we were listening to you, Matt.
As I was. Anyways, so just a quick update on the Watershed Council. We did hold our annual Saga Day in the Park event. It was a lot of fun. I think I talked about it a little bit last month. Last 2 weekends ago, we had our final project of the spring, which was the collaboration between Whitaker and McNary, which cleaned up the Keizer Rotary Arboretum in honor of Wilbur Bloom. We're going to figure out the acronym on that one of these days, but really great collaboration once again with Clyde Creek Watershed Council and Rotary on a good project. We filled up about 5 yards of debris and cleaned up about a third of the debris around the bases of the trees. So beyond that, looking to continue to do some collaboration with Marion Soil and Water. Going to be continuing to work a little bit on the story map project over the summer, but largely we're going to be hopefully working with the West Keizer Neighborhood Association to do a Wallace House Park cleanup. There's been some discussion going on that one. We've had a bit of a stalemate in terms of getting resources and or bodies for that, but I've spoken with Kathy Lincoln with West Keizer today, and we're going to see what we can try to do to revitalize that. If we don't get the project done this summer, likely we'll be ramping it up full scale to do next spring. Again, as I've discussed before, it's a multi-phased process over the course of 2 or 3 years to get that cleaned out, but we're excited to continue the conversations on those projects and get those things moving forward. So beyond that, really appreciative of the work that we've had with our Clyde Creek Watershed Council, and appreciate all the time that everybody's come out. I know the mayor's been out there, Councilor Kohler, Councilor Reed, Councilor Freeman, all out there doing projects. So thank you very much.
Any questions? Thank you for all your work on that. The parks are better off because of all of the work that you all have led. And I love that our students are getting out there and getting their hands dirty to really get into volunteerism. Thank you so much. Donna Bradley is going to give us the parks report.
Good evening, council members and Madam Mayor, rather than good morning. I'm just here to let you know that the Parks Board is very happy to let you know that the parks are coming along swimmingly. Even though we've had quite a bit of rain, everything seems to be up tip-top. Because of the extra funding, we've been able to stay on top of the daily, the monthly, the weekly, and getting caught up on some things that have been behind for quite some time. So we're happy to find that the parks are more enjoyable now because people can get in and use them. We have a couple of parks that, as you heard, Wallace House and Sunset, both of which are have been guarded by the neighborhoods and now are going to be needing a little bit more help. I also know that the Budget Committee looked at our extra request for extra funding, and they have conceded that for projects for the youth, which we're real excited about too. Have any questions?
Any questions on park report? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming tonight. It's good to see you. Anybody else here for a committee report from one of our city committees? Okay. That takes us to public testimony. This time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. We have 3 public hearings scheduled for this evening. The first is amending the Keizer Development Code regarding Section 2.109, Commercial Office, Section 2.115, Agricultural Industrial, and Section 2.434, Mobile Food Vendors. The second is the 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan, and this has to do with our partnership with the City of Salem on our CDBG, Community Development Block Grant and Home Programs. And then the third is supplemental budget requests. So if you're here for one of those, you should have signed up on a public hearing sheet. I do have them, but we will take additional folks if you didn't get a chance to sign up. So with that, I have 3 people signed up to talk about the idea of the park host, and I'll start off with Carol Phipps from the West Keizer Neighborhood Association.
Good evening, and thank you. I'm representing the West Keizer Neighborhood Association, and we've come together and drafted a letter, and I think you all have copies of it.
Yes, we do.
So I'm just going to go ahead and read that letter, if that's okay. So Mayor Clark and City Council, this is concerning the Park Host Program at the Keizer Rapids Park. We would like to state our support of the Keizer Rapids Park Host Program. The park host position was discussed at our May 2nd Board of Directors meeting and again at the general meeting on May 9th. At both meetings, a vote was taken and there was unanimous support for reinstating the Keizer Rapids host program. Since 2006, when the park host program was initiated and included in the Keizer Rapids Park Master Plan, the West Keizer Neighborhood Association was very supportive of this position. The main reason being that the position provided an on-site security presence not only for the amenities at the park, but to deter and report any undesirable activity in the park. Activities that would directly affect the livability for adjacent neighboring properties to the park. The issue of security continues to be a major concern for our neighborhood. As the park grows and becomes more popular, there needs to continue to be monitoring of the park hours and on weekends. Taking preventative measures now by having a park host will minimize vandalism and illegal camping. Amongst the 5 options presented to you by the city staff, we would fully support option number 3, re-implementation of the park host program. Thank you for your consideration of our request, and I am submitting you this letter in behalf of all of the members of the West Keizer Neighborhood Association. Questions?
All right, are there any questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is Richard Walsh, and then finally, after him, Rhonda Rich will be on deck.
Thank you. My name is Richard Walsh, a resident of the city of Keizer, mayor, city councilors, staff. I guess I have 2 issues. One of them is on the agenda tonight. I noticed that there's a 1990 house on Shamawa that's on the agenda, item G. I believe it's for surplus. Is that the charge house? Okay, and it says for sale. Is that I didn't hear anything about the plans for that. Is that a sale to be demolished, or is that another private residence we've got to worry about in the middle of the park, or what are we talking about?
It is an asset that needs to be removed in one way or another, whether it's demolished or repurposed and moved, et cetera. So
The title just talks about sale. So is this a sale to a third party?
potentially,
Potentially. So,
we don't have a sale in the pocket or anything like that, so.
but this
It's
vote
just
will
it's time to
authorize-
do something with the house.
If I could, it's surplusing it as personal property. It will not be sold as real estate. Just so everyone's clear on that. It would either be demolished or moved.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. It
Thank
will
you.
not be sold in places real estate. It'd be a different process if it was that, so.
I was wondering if we had another issue we had to worry about.
No, but that's funny, and I wish I'd have thought of that before.
Yeah. Well, is that house for sale?
I thought maybe you were checking about your house, so.
I was
it's like-
worried if it was a
Yeah.
typo.
We had the address wrong, so.
It did occur to me it could have been a typo. So anyway, I've already talked to the council about my concerns about the park host, and I'm not going to repeat myself here today. But I do want to point out a couple of things. One of them, I just want to highlight kind of one little highlight. And that's the Parks Board didn't just vote on this, they voted on it twice, and they voted it unanimously. The Neighborhood Association didn't just vote on this, they voted on it twice, and they voted on it unanimously. This is not a contentious issue. This is a slam dunk issue among the Parks Board and the Neighborhood Association. This is something they want, which is a park host in the park. Whether it be by a ranger or a park host, I think the main issue is they want security, they want somebody down there, they want some services done, that sort of thing. And the third group that I think we shouldn't overlook is the hundreds of people that are involved in the master plan process also wanted a park host. That's why it's in the master plan. So I just want to remind the council of those things. And there are other things that park hosts can do in the future, that if we get a rental in there, perhaps we're not going to be able to start adding things, like, who knows? We talked about horseshoes, we talked about, different things parks can do. There could be things stored in that house that can help with the parks, which leads me to my one last thing, and that is that it doesn't have to be the Buchanan house. The Buchanan property includes a fairly large part on the side. There used to be a mobile home on the side, not a mobile home, but RV. There used to be an RV on the side of the house. There's space for that. It could be accommodated. I think we could do a hybrid where you could have basically your options 1 and 3 blended together, where the actual residents of the park host could be in an RV, and which is more typical. It's kind of classic, and it avoids some legal issues I talked to Shannon about, that if you had not issues as much as avoids questions, and it's just really clean. You had an RV park, it would be virtually identical to the Oregon State Park system without any questions or whatever. And you can have the residents in the RV, and then you can use the whole house for the park. You can store your volleyballs and nets and anything else, and have a green room for the amphitheater, and you have opportunities and options still reserved, and everything's kind of taken care of, and you don't lose the opportunity for the park host to do the service. One more thing is that once we get a park host system in place, you don't have to have just one. You could have two. It's 180 acres. You could do whatever fits the public and whatever your needs arise. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. So, unless there's any questions.
Are there any questions? And thank you for bringing up that RV pad. I think that is a creative alternative that I don't really see addressed here.
Right.
But it offers opportunities for us to separate out kind of these issues, because you have the issue of the house, what to do with it, and then you have the question of the park host, and these have been conflated up until now. And my brain is going, oh, so we have two different issues here. One is whether or not we want to look at park host options and how that person would be there, if they would be year-round, if they'd be part-year, et cetera, and then we have the house. And we might be able to consider these separately.
Separately, but on the same lot, because it is master planned for that lot.
Right.
So on that same spot. But I also think that it is important to remember that the, no, my time's up.
No, you answer a question if you would, please.
I think your point is very well taken, that they can be addressed independently, but I do think it's important to keep it on that parcel and then not to move in a residence into the center of the park. Have some other use for that house. For the reasons I mentioned last time.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rhonda Rich.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Rhonda Rich, and resident of West Keizer. I would like to talk about the Park Host Program basically as a taxpayer. I understand the revenue that you would like to get from the renting out the house there. $1,500 a month, I think, was proposed. Just doing the math, and I like doing the math, I'm not sure what a park maintenance employee makes, but I would think with the hourly wage and benefits, you're probably looking at $30 an hour. So divide 30 into 1,500, you're looking at 50 hours a month to recoup of what you would be getting from the rent. So that's only about 12 hours a week. And I know you would get more out of that from the park host than that. And the security being the issue of you would not have a park, a maintenance employee on evenings or weekends. And I think that's when the park gets the most use. And I think that's when it would be most beneficial to have somebody there kind of keeping eyes on things, maybe an hour or two in the evening just to kind of patrol around, maybe pick up garbage or deter somebody from doing something. And on weekends, basically full-time, maybe that person doesn't get weekends off. They get a day or two during the week off. So I think it would be very beneficial. You can't really put a price on what this person is going to prevent happening at the park. I think we've had some vandalism issues, and I hate to see the park get to a Wallace Marine Park where we've got unwanted camping. So I think it's a good, responsible use of taxpayer money to have a volunteer and forego getting some rent from that house. And whatever other things, projects you might want this person to do, organize groups who come in, or organize volleyball games, or whatever else you would like to add on to that. But the security is the main issue that I would like to address. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
By the way, good job today at the legislature.
Oh, thank you.
For anybody who wasn't watching this afternoon, there was a public hearing on Senate Bill 1040 regarding the quarry shooting issues, and our city attorney and Carol Phipps and Rhonda Rich were there to testify. I had to watch during my lunch break.
It was Shirley DeShawn.
Shirley DeShawn, I'm sorry. I'm looking straight at you, and it was Shirley.
It's always interesting to go down there. Looks like we're headed in the right direction, so.
But thank you for your ongoing
Thank
work
you.
with that, and I just wanted to make sure that people knew that this is moving forward, and please check out on OLIS, the Oregon Legislative Information System, for next steps. So I'll throw that in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else would wish to address the council during public testimony tonight? Yes, come on down. It's good to see you. And just say, if you would just state your name and city of residence for the record.
Alan Barker, City of Keizer. My interest in the house itself is that, you know, I think that if we're going to have somebody down there, I like the idea of a security person as well. I think that whatever we do, if we're going to have somebody down there, either beside the house in an RV or in the residence of the house, and I don't know what the condition is of the house inside, but outside is going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of work to clean up the outside of around that house. The trees are bad. There's some issues with the old wood pile, things like that. But I'd like to see somebody down there. I don't know how you're going to be able to draft the requirements of that host to fit that bill. That's going to be a chore, because as the seasons change, the requirements are going to change. If you have people back in the woods, you're going to have to hopefully give that person the ability to go back and take care of whoever's camping back there, or call in the sheriff or the city to get help to move them out. Maybe a gate across the driveways at night so that people don't go in there, so it's easier for the person to let people know they don't need to be there anymore. We have signs. Everybody knows they're not supposed to be out there after dark, but we've got to keep them from driving in. I like the idea of a subcontractor down there. If we have somebody that contracts to go down there that has their own health benefits already, that we're not responsible for paying for, that the city taxpayers don't have to pay for as an extra expense, I think budget-wise that really fits. I don't know how much the house would rent for, and I don't know what the size of the RV pad is that's out there. I haven't checked that out. But it's going to be kind of a chore to figure out how to even bring that up. And this is not going to be an early decision, but I think we need to get fired up about it, because people are looking for places to live. And we know that there are squatters that take place in homes around here a lot already. So I'd like to encourage you folks to post haste. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you so much. Any questions? It's good to see you. Thanks for coming tonight. Mr. Richardson. If you just state your name and city of residence for the taped record.
My name's Daryl Richardson. I live in Keizer. I've been here 52 years. I live next door to Sunset Park, which I've taken care of, really taken care of for 35 years. And I could see a person down there with an RV that would be seasonal, say from April until maybe October. That's when the park is the busiest. And then have a full-time security or full-time park host, and have the seasonal one be a volunteer, which with the light duties, he's getting his rent paid and utilities. And I think that would be kind of, in a way, the perfect world, because you have somebody there full-time, you have somebody there part-time, so they can work together and they can secure the property and work together doing that, instead of just one person trying to do that. That would be really the best way to go down there. And I don't know what you're looking at for a camp host, whether you're going to have one full-time or pay somebody full-time or rent-free or whatever. But I think I'm going to be in the market for maybe doing something, being a camp host as a volunteer down the road.
Really?
And I'm experienced at taking care of a park. And we do not have any homeless at Sunset Park, and we haven't had any real issues down there at Sunset Park because the neighbors and myself take care of the issues usually. I know we have to call the police department occasionally just to kind of cover our own back. But anyway, I would be, excuse me, kind of a volunteer right now at this point. And this gentleman said about the house, I'm a handyman. I would like to have something to do, work on the house if I lived there at the park. So, I mean, I'm just giving you maybe a little bit of more volunteer, because I'm not going to have anything to do once I sell my house and move into an RV. And so I would, like to be able to have something to do.
Well, I walked my dog past there, and I hadn't seen your for sale sign, so that's kind of news. But thank you for bringing that idea about having the RV and seasonal. I think we're hearing a lot of options that really hadn't been brought forward up to this point, and I think it's really good food for thought. City Manager, did you want to add? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. Anybody else? I thought I saw another hand. Maybe not. Okay. This time, let's go into our public hearings then. Our first one tonight is an ordinance amending the Keizer Development Code regarding Section 2.109, Commercial Office, Section 2.115, Agricultural Industrial, and Section 2.434, Mobile Food Vendors, amending ordinance number 98-389, declaring an emergency. Open public hearing. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney Johnson.
Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor, and Council. As you might remember, the Council dealt with the mobile food vendor issue and changed the format of it from a vendor getting a permit to the property owner getting a premises permit to place one or more mobile food vendors there. In order to complete that, we have some housekeeping on the land use end in terms of the Keizer Development Code, because it referred to a mobile food vendor. So it's really just a housekeeping measure in a sense, and the Planning Commission has passed it on to you with their recommendations. It essentially adds mobile food vendors and allowed use in the AI, or agriculture industrial zone, and public zone, which they weren't before, and then makes the modification. You can see the main changes on page 26 of your packet by instead of saying mobile food vendor, must locate on a site that's obtained a mobile food vendor premises permit. So we have taken the liberty of coming with the ordinance so that we can get this in place. Normally we come back to the next meeting, but since it was such a simple change, we brought it with us. So if the recommendation is to hold a public hearing, if there's no questions, close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions on the staff report? So I do have Alan Barker signed up to testify. Okay. So I'll pass on that. Is there anybody else who would like to address the council on the issue of the mobile food vendor and the changes to the development code? Okay, seeing none. Close the public hearing. Council President Freeman.
I move that the Keizer City Council adopt a bill for an ordinance amending Keizer Development Code regarding Section 2.108, Commercial Office, Section 2.115, Agricultural Industrial, and Section 2.434, Mobile Food Vendors, amending Ordinance 98-389, declaring an emergency.
Second.
Sorry, I had to make a note. It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt a bill for an ordinance 2019 amending Keizer Development Code regarding Section 2.109, commercial office, Section 2.115, agricultural, industrial, and Section 2.434, mobile food vendors, amending ordinance number 98-389, declaring an emergency. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 8B, which is the 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan. Open public hearing, City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney.
Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor and Council. This is the annual plan that comes from Salem as they operate the joint program for Salem Keizer for the home funds and CBDG community development block grants, as the mayor had indicated earlier. As I said, they manage the program. They have a 5-year plan and an annual plan. This is the annual 2019 and 2020 plan. There is a lot of material there, and I did not go through every single page myself, but you can see several references to Keizer throughout. The recommendation is to open the hearing and take testimony, and if there's no questions, to close the hearing and deliberate, and unless you have further questions, we'd send your comments back to the city of Salem, and then the concept would be is when Salem adopts the final one, we would come back on the July 1 meeting if the timing works out, and we would actually adopt it at that time. With that, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
All right, thank you very much. Questions? I've got a few. One of them is there used to be a Salem Urban Housing and Development Committee that appears to have been discontinued in May of 2018. Our representative was Frank Hostler, and if they were appointed through the Salem process, not our Keizer Volunteer Coordinating Committee process. Was there any point they were going to reconvene that group or have any other public committee that oversees the work of this program? So that's my question number one.
I'm not aware. Nate?
I have not heard how they're planning to reconvene the governance of that with local input. I think they're relying upon the actual plan itself for your review on an annual basis to make sure.
Madam Mayor, what was the name of that subcommittee or committee? Do you have that?
Yeah, it was the Salem Urban Housing and Development Committee. I went back and looked at my notes last night because I couldn't quite remember, but I remembered there was a piece there that there was a disconnect, and that the Keizer representative, they asked us for a name, and then when I double-checked, and I worked with Councilor Smith on this to connect with the person who was representing Keizer, and very ably, I might add, but that committee has now been discontinued according to the website, and then follow information that Councilor Smith obtained.
We would have to come back to you with that specific information.
Okay,
We can provide that offline, Madam Mayor, when we check.
thank you. Anybody else? Because I have another one. On page 7, it referenced, on page 7 of their report, it's our different page in our packet, they referenced that the funding for the Mid-Willamette Homeless Initiative and talked about Salem funding that is actually funded by City of Salem, Marion County, City of Keizer, City of Independence, and City of Monmouth. So I would like to see that amended to reflect that all of those jurisdictions are paying for that position, not just the City of Salem. The verbiage was incomplete, in my opinion. Do you see that part?
Is it in the bullet points or in the opening paragraph? Bullet points. Third bullet? Oh, I mean, yeah, I missed it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a little sensitive on that since I chair the steering committee. So, yeah, but it's, we allocate funds, Marion County allocates the same amount of funds that City of Salem does, and then the cities of Monmouth and Independence are also paying for that position, which has been very, very helpful in helping us transition now to the continuum of care work that is being done to apply with HUD for funding or reconstituting our own continuum of care, as we heard in our work session. On page 54 of our packet, and I didn't write down the page in there, to that one, 54. So it's page 27 of their action plan. So this refers to the city of Salem. If appropriate, describe publicly owned land or property located within the jurisdiction that may be used to address the needs identified in the plan, specifically affordable housing, shelters, and other homeless services. And City of Salem did not have anything applicable, and I believe it would be appropriate to state that the City of Keizer does not have any applicable publicly owned land zoned for that at this time.
And as well as the other jurisdictions.
I can't speak for them.
No,
I
I
think
know,
it would be
but-
appropriate to ask them, but I think we can be clear that we do not have available land for that since we are pretty much out of land. We're getting pretty close. And I have one more. It's on page 59 of our packet, page 32 of the report. They were talking about, let me get to page 59. This is more of a comment than a question. Talked about the, let's see, it's second paragraph about high rents, and as I think most people here know that Keizer is considered a severely rent-burdened city because more than 25% of our population pays more than half of their income in rent in this city. But it talks about the estimated 10% increase in rent leads to a 13.6% increase in the rate of homelessness. But then it talks about two-bedroom home in Salem, you need a job paying at least $21.26, and then average income resident is $11.37 per hour. Obviously, this is a mismatch. My comment is that it doesn't talk about, well, it talks about an individual resident, it doesn't talk about an individual household, which very likely may have two or more wage earners. So might that not be a more helpful metric to talk about household rent burden versus an individual? Or am I getting too deep in the weeds?
No, I think you're right.
Okay. Because I figured out if you have two people earning that, that medium income, it's not high paying, but that would meet the threshold for being able to afford the median home in Salem. And again, our numbers are very different because our median income is higher, and I believe our median housing cost is also higher in Keizer, so this doesn't necessarily apply to the Keizer community. And I don't know if it's appropriate to put some data or reference where a person can find more information, since this is a joint program. I'm looking at a realtor friend in the audience to see if I've kind of gotten that right, that our housing costs are higher in Keizer on median than Salem's. I'm seeing a couple head nods. Depends on your neighborhood.
Yeah, that's what she's saying.
Yep, depends on your neighborhood. And then last but not least, on page 39, and this is more for, just to remind me where they listed all the vouchers that are issued through these programs. And I wanted to bring that to people's attention because we've heard a lot about the voucher programs and the need for more. And I wanted to point out on page 66 of the packet, it actually goes through the list of all the different types of vouchers, and I just wanted to highlight that for folks who were following along on this issue, because we talk about vouchers like it's a one-size-fits-all, and there are several types with different criteria, and these are really laid out well. So this is this is a good chart to refer to as we're trying to understand the very complicated pathway that people have to go through to get vouchers for affordable housing. So that's more of a highlight, and I want to make sure that people notice that one. Thank you. Soapbox off. Did anybody else notice anything else in reading through this report? So these comments would then go back to the city of Salem. I don't have anybody who signed up to testify on this issue. I welcome anybody from the audience who would like to speak to this issue of the report for the CDBG and home grants. All right. Council President Freeman.
Excuse me, mine is more of, I guess, a question. So every year they come and they ask for us to approve their plan because it's joint. But they, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not seen them come back and say that these are all the great things and they would more like to be a partner. So I guess, Nate, I'm looking at you. I mean, there's a lot of reference to Keizer in here, but I guess throughout the year, I'm not sure I'm seeing the benefit to Keizer with these dollars, and maybe we are indirectly, but like, I would have hoped someone from the city of Salem would have been here tonight to talk about this plan and how Keizer is benefiting from these dollars, because we're giving a support letter as long as I've sat on council, and I have yet to see someone come and say, you know, here's all the great things we're doing in the city of Keizer residents, or the overlap, and we all can say that we're seeing, you know, increased homelessness, and we know we're rent burden, and many things that they address in their plan, but there is no one here to really help shape this plan and or ask for assistance from us to how do they make this plan better and deliver, and potentially maybe get more funds in that we can co-sponsor and be part of those funds.
So the funds are basically allocated on a population basis based on our joint. So this program is allocated funds proportionately to the combined Salem and Keizer populations. In the past, we have gotten those reports. I believe they are more than happy to provide that if that is your desire. And we can certainly invite them to come back when we come to adopt that report. I think, they are more than anxious to be able to work together with us. I think as we get the questions answered about the governance and the replacement for how the committee is now planning to go forward from here, I think that will hold an answer to some of that. So we will certainly invite them to come and share.
Like it. And in all fairness, it may have been before you were on council, we have received those in the past, but it may have been a few years. The years do run together. But I think it's really timely for us being in the situation now with being rent burdened and with the housing crisis that we have in our community to really be aware of how these dollars are delivering. Okay, anything else? Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Close the public hearing. All right, that takes us to then item 7C, a resolution authorization for supplemental budget, general administration contingency. Resolution authorization for supplemental budget, PEG, which is Public Educational Government Fund contingency. Resolution authorization for supplemental budget, general fund, municipal court, and resolution authorization for supplemental budget, administrative services fund, public works, civic center facilities contingency. I just open public hearing. City manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, I come before you tonight with 4 budget adjustments that I would recommend. The first adjustment is to move $20,000 from our contingency line item within the Administrative Services Fund to provide for some retrospective liability insurance claims. The second adjustment is within the PEG fund, and we've had a few pieces of equipment that needed to be upgraded, replaced. Prime example is the camera that used to sit right behind me. This is also going to provide for microphones and an upgrade to the sound system as well. So my recommendation is that we transfer $10,000 from contingency to PEG fund appropriations. The third adjustment is within the general fund related to municipal court. Over the last month, we've seen the municipal court citations continue to come in fairly fast. Along with the additional revenue comes additional costs in the way of judge fees, contractual services, credit card fees, and state and county assessments. So for that adjustment, I'm recommending we recognize $10,000 worth of the additional revenue and appropriate that to provide for the variable costs. The final adjustment is pretty much a timing adjustment. We had budgeted approximately $40,000 for the sign reader board for next year's budget. We didn't think we would be able to get that project done this year. There is a slim chance that we might be able to do it, so I'd rather recognize the additional amount this year just so that we have it available to us. If we don't need it, it'll just roll over into next year's budget. So the fourth adjustment is to move $40,000 from contingency in the Administrative Services Fund, Civic Center facilities to the additional capital outlay item. And with that, I would recommend you take any public testimony, and if you have any questions, I'd be free to answer.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff reports? Report, plural. All right. I don't have anybody signed up to speak to this issue this evening. Is there anybody who would like to address the council on any of these supplemental budget requests? Don't all rush at once. All right. Anything further, council? We good with the staff report and the information given? All right. Close public hearing. Council President Freeman.
And we do need to do these independently, correct? Yes. Okay, thank you. So I move, excuse me, that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorization for supplemental budget general administration contingency.
It's been moved and seconded. The Keizer City Council, I didn't hear how you worded that.
Oh, that was general admin, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Just the first one, okay, yeah, all right. Oh, sorry. It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorization for supplemental budget general administration contingency. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Council President Freeman.
I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorization for supplemental budget for the PEG fund contingency.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorization for supplemental budget, PEG fund contingency. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Council President Freeman.
I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorization for supplemental budget general fund municipal court.
Second again.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorization for supplemental budget general fund municipal court. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. And once more, Council President Freeman.
I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorization for supplemental budget administrative services fund public works civic center facilities contingency.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorization for supplemental budget administrative services fund public works civic center facilities contingency. Discussion. Councilor
Parsons.
Councilor Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know you want to change my name and my title, but I'm still the same.
Yes, you are.
I do have a question. So on this particular, this is the fund that we've actually been putting money away every year for, like the last 5 or 6 years for this reader board. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that for the audience.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to administrative action. City Manager, you had a recommendation because of the,
Just given the number of folks that are hanging with us throughout the evening, I thought it might be advantageous to move item E, the Keizer Rotary Use Agreement, up and take it before the other 4 items before it.
Consensus. Yes.
Council?
Consensus.
All right. So with that, we are going to go ahead and take out of order the Keizer Rotary Keizer Rotary Use Agreement, item 8E. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney?
Well, I'll turn quickly through the program here. Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor and Council. As most of you know, shortly after the new City Hall opened in 2009, the City and Rotary Club entered into a 10-year agreement for Rotary's use of the community rooms. Rotary paid $30,000 at that time and $10,000 per year for 7 years for the 10-year agreement, for a total of $100,000 for 10 years' use. Rotary uses Iris A, part of the community rooms, for the weekly lunches and uses the entire ballroom for the annual raffle dinner event. They may also use the room 1 or 2 additional times. That 10-year term is expiring shortly, and we've entered into discussions with Rotary on how to continue. Rotary has submitted a proposal to not pay any direct fees, but instead get a credit for dollar amounts of $10,000 per year for city projects as a whole, and 700 hours of community service per year. And I've submitted copies of the May 6th letter from Rotary and a letter from Mark Adams, chairman of the Rotary Club Foundation. Through recent negotiations, we've been considering a version of Rotary's proposal to allow a dollar contribution and volunteer hours to be as compensation for the use of the rooms. And I'll just, for the audience mainly, I'll outline that. As I said, the $10,000 per year, 700 hours per year would be for projects directly benefiting city parks, property and operations, or the public within the city, together with school projects. That's one of the parts that we're still talking with Rotary about in terms of how to define that, but I think the parties generally understand that they need to be projects that directly benefit the city here. Each year, the parties would meet to discuss the projects, and Rotary would deliver a report each year to detail the activity. Rotary would commit to communicating with city staff regarding the use of the community rooms. We would also clarify the insurance requirements. Although Rotary always provided the insurance, the contract wasn't clear on that before. Depending on how you look at it, Rotary's proposal presents a couple concerns and a couple advantages. First, paying no direct fees for the use of the rooms could be seen as unfair to other nonprofits. I think the council, if they go this direction, will want to consider that, and I think there is a way to consider that going forward. Probably not for discussion tonight, but would be discussion in the future. Second, the rent revenue, of course, is an important part of covering the cost of the community room. The rent revenue assists the city in covering expenses, and it's important to identify our revenue resources, obviously, if we can. On the other hand, it's undisputed that Rotary's contributions are a great benefit to the city. Obviously, the dollar amounts and the volunteer hours they submit is substantial. Their work at the Keizer Rapids Park and Little League and school projects has been a tremendous asset to the city. So it's one of those policy questions that you folks get the big bucks to weigh. So the staff gets to lay that in your lap. I did lay out the recommendations for you. We could move forward with a modified Rotary proposal, and Councilor Kohler's been assisting us working with Rotary, and we have some draft language. I didn't bring it here because we're still kind of working through it, but we could go that direction if that's the way you want us to go. You could propose that Rotary pay the fees as established. All Keizer-based nonprofits get a 25% nonprofit discount plus one fundraiser for $500 rather than $2,500, which is the normal rate, or excuse me, $2,000, not $2,500. You could propose some other figure, a substantial discount based on the volume usage and their benefits to the community. And I'm sure that there's other kind of options or sub-options you could look at if you'd like. So the recommendation is to consider this, discuss it, and give staff direction generally on what option you have. If you have particular concerns about any details, I'd be glad to talk about that. And then hopefully at the next meeting, we'd be coming back if things work together with the final contract, if that's the direction you go.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? And I want to thank Councilors Kohler and Reed for their help with this work as well. Is there anybody from Rotary who would like to address council and bring us up to date? Mr. Collier. Always glad to see you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council and staff. My name is Mark Kelly. I'm a resident of Keizer. I'm here on behalf of the Rotary Club of Keizer and also the Keizer Rotary Foundation. asking that you consider our suggestions for our facilities agreement for the next 10 years and that you waive the fees. I'd also like to say that our president, A.J. Nash, and our chair, foundation chair, Mark Adams, could not be here tonight just because they had out-of-town commitments.
Councilor Herrera.
You probably heard this from me before, but as I look out here, I see some of the people that have helped. You know, Keizer Rotary is one of the pillars of our community. As we navigate this, I want to make sure that we know this because, I mean, they 10 years at Little League, like I've said, they pretty much helped with 99% of our projects, whether it was McNary and all that. And I want us to consider that because I look out here, I see four first citizens out here. I see Vicky. And these people have put so much time, Rotary, like I say, I just want to keep that in mind as we navigate this because, I mean, like I said, a lot of the programs I did and I worked with, whether it was McNary or Little League, we could not have done them without these guys. I mean, they've been so helpful, and I just want to remind us about that. I guess I'm kind of biased, and I want to reveal that right now because I'm totally, I depended on them for many, many years, and they always came through every time. So that's my 2 cents on the record.
And no charge. Councilor Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Keizer has a motto, service above self. So I truly believe that the service they give to the Keizer community, you can't even put a price tag on it. So I'm glad to see them all in the room tonight supporting each other and also supporting what we're going to discuss tonight. And I do appreciate you guys coming. And I appreciate Rotary's contributions tremendously. I was on the original task force, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, whatever. And they had great ideas. And, you know, things have changed as the times have changed. But we've all managed to kind of hang in there. And I hope we can have a partnership going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to express my appreciation for the members of the Rotary Club that I've worked with the last few weeks, particularly the professionalism that they've shown and their willingness to be patient as we put all this together. And I think I'm very pleased with what they're doing, and I think we'll be able to take care of that for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it doesn't sound like we have any questions. I want to thank you for the work you've put in. I've always found you to be a person who is a great think partner and also understand that what we're dealing with here sets a precedent that whatever agreement we put together has to be very clear about what the expectations are for the city, our obligations, the Rotary and commitments, because both of us take our commitments very, very seriously, and our word is our bond. What we say we're going to do, we do. And that has been something that has been true of Rotary over the years. So I appreciate working through the process here to make sure that we get it right with a very important community partner.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate everything that the city does on our behalf, and the partnership that we've had with the city has made both organizations better and also the community much better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Was there anybody else who was going to, from the group that was going to speak or wanted to add comments? I'm not seeing anybody jump up and go, yeah, I'd love to do that. But thank you all for being here, and also I'm looking at people in the audience who have, and I can think of different projects you've been involved with over the years. And as you're leading some of the younger Rotarians into their volunteer years of service, they couldn't have better examples going before them on what pride, spirit, and volunteerism really looks like in action. All right, Council. We have a number of options before us. Council President Parsons, there I go again. I went back to the future. Council President Freeman, do you want to put a motion on the table that we can discuss?
Sure. Kind of seems to be a theme up here, so sorry for the colds up here. At least at this end of the dais. I move that I know everyone gets away, that the Keizer City Council directs staff to move forward with a modified Rotary proposal as indicated above, but allow that any further modification may need to happen during negotiations.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to move forward with the modified Rotary proposal as indicated above and to leave room for additional modifications as indicated during negotiations. So any other discussion or comments? Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to point out that during the budget session, we discussed this issue of waiving fees for nonprofits, and we had an itemized list of, I think, 13 nonprofits for which we waived the Civic Center use fees, and it amounted to, I believe, in the neighborhood of about $6,800. And this is considerably more, but I think it's important to be able to understand that, first of all, we weigh each and every one of these fee waivers very carefully as we look at the nonprofits themselves and the functions that they will be hosting and so forth. And this one it is not just a matter of the fiscal question. It's a matter of what is best for the community in general. What Rotary does is they take what funds they have and they multiply them. And so in waiving these fees and entering into this kind of agreement, we are trusting that Rotary, as they have countless times in their track record, will multiply this benefit that we are affording them and make this work in many, many different ways throughout the community. So it's not just simply a matter of us waiving the fixed amount of fees that are being asked to be waived, but rather it's about the benefit to the whole city and kind of the bigger, broader picture. So I just kind of wanted to articulate that and put that on the record.
All right, thank you very much.
Kathy?
Councilor Herrera?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to compliment Dan and his work with the Rotary, because I'm sure we'll get something worked out, and I really appreciate the work you've done behind the scenes, Dan, and we're going to go forward with these guys, and it's going to happen. I just want to make sure that, and I really appreciate what you've done here.
It's been a collaborative effort.
I just want to thank you and all the folks that are working with you. Thanks.
A couple of the things that are different this time that I think are really important is that we've added in some of the things we've learned through the School of Hard Knocks. I say we as if I had to go through that. Tracy Davis and her staff members have learned a great deal over the last 10 years about the pitfalls and the necessary things that go into keeping the community center going. So some of these things are going to be in this agreement. As was pointed out, the insurance, you're responsible partners, so we're not putting that in there because that was lacking. It's simply that we're putting that into all of our agreements now, just so there's clarity. The other piece that I think is really exciting is the opportunity to have a conversation about projects as they develop. As Keizer's grown up, we've done a lot of things kind of more along the line of the old Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney. Let's do a show. We're going to do a project, but that was more spontaneous. It was more of a startup. Now that we're farther along, we have master plans. We also have things going. If we can communicate early about projects that you are interested in, that fit your the framework of your mission, and that also then dovetail with the framework of the master plans and things that are going on with the city, the opportunity for that collaboration to yield multiplicative benefits, I think, is tremendous. So that communication, I think, is going to be a key piece for our ongoing success and making sure that every investment that you as a Rotary Club and foundation put into our community will continue to have long-term benefits. So I just wanted to point that out, and thank you for being willing to engage in those ongoing collaborative conversations. All right, anything else? All in favor signify by, Councilor Kohler, you have one more thing. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say again, thank you for Rotary coming tonight and making a formal ask for a waive of the fees. That was part of the agreement that we had talked about. We appreciate you moving forward with that.
Thank you. Okay. All right, anybody else? No. Going once. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. We'd love to have you stay for the evening, but and we know we're scintillating company, but
You don't have to go either.
there's But we will now go to item 8A, back to our regularly scheduled program, the Buchanan House and Park Host Program. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In 2006, City of Keizer created a volunteer park host role to provide hosting and maintenance duties at the Keizer Rapids Park. The park host role was modeled after the Oregon State Parks host program. The host was required to reside in the residence on the property, originally the charge house, but later moved to the Buchanan House as a condition of service. All utilities and upkeep to the house were the responsibility of the park host, and in lieu of rent, the park host was to provide 20 to 40 hours of volunteer service per week within Keizer Rapids Park. I've listed a whole series of kinds of duties that the park host would do. They include, generally being aware of activities occurring in the park, mowing, taking care of the amphitheater, providing assistance to park visitors, acting as a conduit of information between the community or the neighborhood around the park and the city generally, operating power equipment, et cetera, et cetera. The position was considered a volunteer and therefore was recruited and vetted through the Volunteer Coordinating Committee, the VCC, for recommendation to the City Council. Shane and Malia Witham were nominated by the VCC to serve in the commission, or in the position, and they were confirmed by the City Council. There were several other applicants for the position, 2 of whom were city employees, et cetera, et cetera. So the role eventually changed away from, or sort of migrated away from, providing the security and the face to the neighborhood and landed more toward purely providing labor within the park, which is kind of where it landed. Ultimately, the Withams, we converted their agreement to a strict rental agreement because their life became crazy and they were no longer able to really do those functions, but they were still a presence in the park, and so anyway, we converted that to a rental and then took the revenues and put them back into the Parks Department and purchased that labor instead. The Withams recently moved out, and now we have some considerations as to what to do with the Buchanan House, and I've listed for your consideration a number of different options. One could be sort of the null, which is to not rent the house out at all, or put a host in it and basically demo the house, or keep the house for use for some other purpose. There are a number of pros and cons to that. It's simple. That's a pro. We provide property for use as parks equipment and other types of storage. It can be converted to some other use, like a support facility to the amphitheater. Some of the cons would be we'd be forfeiting revenues from rent, where we'd be forfeiting potential services from a park host. So you can see sort of some of the pros and cons as we go through each of these. Second option would be to rent out the Buchanan House. Once again, this is a simple option. It's easy to define for the public. It's easy to identify revenues coming in and where those revenues would be going and what we'd be purchasing with them. Some of the cons, you could get the wrong renter, and that is a con. We could potentially get less value out of it than if we have the right park host. And once again, I have to sort of emphasize the word right, because there's the right person for any job. And if you get the right person, you get a lot out of them. If you don't get the right person, that won't necessarily be the best relationship. So anyway, there are other cons as well there. Number 3, we could re-implement the park host program. We've heard a lot of the positive support for that. Some of the pros of all of these, of any of these where we're putting a body in that house, one of the other pros is also preserving that asset from squatters and other kinds of damage that could occur through folks who are permanently camping out in the parks, doing those kinds of activities. One of the disadvantages of the park host is that it's less straightforward than purely renting, potentially ongoing criticism from the public if we can't very clearly describe what it is we're getting for the asset. So we have to be very careful about that. With rent, it's easy. We get this much in, we're buying this much labor. For the park host, it becomes a more complex arrangement, and it really seriously depends on getting the right person and how you define the right person. Number 4, we can implement a new program, a park ranger program, where we actually would purchase labor. So this would be an actual city employee. We would require them to live there on the property, and so their compensation would be some mixture of both rental arrangement and more traditional compensation. The advantages, of course, is that we would get a 40-hour per week position that would be accountable through a formal employment arrangement. The right park ranger could potentially provide actual law enforcement presence of the park in some way. We'd have to work that out through the police department. Once again, the Buchanan House would stay occupied, providing benefits for maintenance and deterrence of squatters and homeless activity. Some of the cons of that particular option, it's the most expensive option. It would actually require us to outlay cash out of our Parks Department, which we have not budgeted for this year. A park ranger might be less inclined to perform some of the basic maintenance activities like taking care of the bathrooms or emptying trash, as opposed to wanting to migrate more toward that safety and security piece, depending on the personality that we end up with. This particular option has not really been fully researched. We've done some basic research into it. If the council expresses interest, then we'll have to do a lot more research on that particular option. Number 5, we could come up with a mixture of those options. We've already heard about some potential of maybe selecting a park host and then also looking at using the RV pad as a secondary park host or in some other kind of arrangement. So the council could direct us to create a hybrid option and give us some ideas of what you'd like to see. So my recommendation is that you pick one and tell us which way to go. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right. Pick one.
Pick one.
That won't work. All right, so we got to think this through. One of the things we heard earlier on was a newer concept with the RV, partial year and so forth. These are options that had not yet been even discussed or explored, so we now have more options, at least in my brain, than we started off with. But I think that we have kind of 2 decision points. One is the park host concept, part year, full year, how we want that relationship, and secondly would be the residential situation of that park host. So in my brain, I just separated the 2, at least partly, because RV versus house is going to be one thing if we have a resident on site, and then how we want to allocate that, the residents might be a second decision point. So that's how I just separated out a little bit. So if it's okay with council, can we talk about the park host concept first? What are the things that we like about the idea? What are the things we want to see defined there? And then have the conversation about where that person would reside. Are you good with separating it that way? Okay, I don't see anybody going, no, that's a terrible idea. Okay, so that simplifies my thinking a little bit. Park host. If we were to have a park host at Keizer Rapids Park, what do we expect that person to do? Chris was very clear that over time, what Shane did evolved based on the needs of that park. And when it came down to doing maintenance, we've now been able to fund that. So what are the expectations? We've heard from the neighborhood. What are some expectations that they have? What are some things we would like to see a park host actually host? So we have some things that were listed. Was that list? And let's go back to the page here. Thank you. Scanning up. Thank you. Page what? 91?
91.
No. 89. So there was the example of daily activities expected to be performed by park host. Now, were these the ones that Shane did or the ones that have been considered for going forward?
That he did.
These were more of what Shane did. So some of these are already covered by park staff, and some of them do not include things that we've heard from from neighbors, especially a big one from, in my thinking, is that presence and security. So I would want to be really clear about what the duties are for somebody, what is their power, authority, and expectations for dealing with people regarding safety and security. And for me, that's a question mark. I don't know what the best solution is there. If we want this to be a person who is actually law enforcement, do we want them more code enforcement? Do we want them, where do we land on that? And I think I need some guidance on that, because that can be I think that's, for me, that's a defining proposition, is where on the safety and security spectrum that this position would be. Councilor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess before I can fully understand that concept, I would like to know about how many calls, security-wise, that we get from the police to the park, or how many times, I don't know, per day, per week. Do we have a sense of how much we call the police to deal with security issues down there?
Yeah, we're not inundated with calls. We don't lay awake at night wondering about what crime is happening in the park, if that's what you're asking. We do respond down there. We responded more down there when we had a park host or somebody living there whose job it was to keep an eye on things. And we do handle recurring crime in there. I chose my word carefully. I did not say regularly handle crime in there. We think about it, but we're not overwhelmed with it.
So in that sense, what I'm kind of hearing is, the police have their police jobs as far as, the security and crime in the park, and then we have security, which is kind of a different issue. More of the just eyes on, what's going on, and they can call police, as you say, as they did, as necessary. So it's not that we need a law enforcement person in there, but we need somebody who knows when to call when necessary, I guess, which is harder to define, but maybe we can discuss that. So, okay, thank you for that clarification.
Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question that I have for Chief Teague is that, in your opinion, do you think it would be beneficial to have somebody there, to have eyes and ears there?
Well, certainly.
Yeah. No, agreed. Yeah.
Eyes on are always a plus. And I think that was one of the things that we heard on an ongoing basis over the years, was that Shane was a very effective eyes on. He knew when to call, when to not, when to confront, when it wasn't a good idea. Chief?
I'll add that Clint Holland every year asks that we have some presence during the concerts. And if we just have a cadet out there that has some official appearance, he tells me that it's remarkable how it suppresses things and lets things run smoothly. That's probably some testimony to having a park host.
Well, and I believe Officer Cummings, one of our reserves, with a tremendous amount of experience, is down there with the cadets overseeing that safety and security, and they are extremely effective. I would agree. Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I think it's obvious that it's helpful, would be helpful for our park system, for our police department, for the safety of our members of our community to have somebody there. Then the next question is it worth all the difficulty on making that, putting that all together so it works? One of the things that Mr. Epley said was that this one is much more difficult and complex than the other ones. That doesn't mean we shouldn't tackle it. And I think that's my feeling about it.
Well, that's why I want to get a sense from us, and also what we've heard from the community. What are our expectations of a person or persons, I'm assuming this person may not live alone, doing this job? I think we've got to be really clear about that so everybody knows what they're getting into, should we go forward with this. So what I've heard from the community, what I've heard from the Parks Board is really a key one, is that eyes on for increased security, somebody who's there, present, aware, and knows what to do in the event of a situation or emergency, but not necessarily to go in and save the day. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I'm looking through this list, I think most of these things would be things that we would want to continue. However, because we have the parks fee, because we have more ability to take care of the park, things like, well, and I don't know about the enforce the dog leash laws, that I don't quite know if that is still necessary, but in the operation of power equipment to perform routine maintenance, et cetera, empty the garbage receptacles as needed, perform maintenance work in coordination. Those 3 bullets may not be as necessary, although I would say that things like trash removal during the weekends, during the busy times, because we have parks personnel out there, a couple, I don't know how many times a week we have people out there, but clearly it's not enough at times. And so that picking, sort of monitoring trash, I think, during peak times would be appropriate. But most of those other things that are taken care of through our regular parks maintenance, I think we can probably take off there.
So what I'm hearing is the off-hours services awareness, again, if something breaks down, their presence there, so identifying the time periods where we would want this park host to be particularly paying attention. That could be calling into Public Works saying, we have an issue here, trash needs to be, or trash or the bathrooms or other facilities are in need of something, and we want to make sure that the city's aware and can get after it. So that's what I heard here as job 2.
Right, and Bill, I mean, we do have people there now, right? I mean, we have a regular maintenance routine, regular trash dumping. What would you particularly like to see in a park host? Just call you to come and maintain them kind of thing? Or would you want them to, like, clean the bathrooms? You know what I'm saying? Like, if something's dire wrong and somebody from the park comes to the park host and says, this is happening, or this needs repaired, or whatever, or somebody wrote all over the bathroom walls, they just want to be able to
forbid.
call you guys, right? Oh, they already did, yeah.
Not necessarily.
No.
I really think that we need to outline the expectation and roles for this program and get our money's worth. We're going to give them a $1,500 a month
correct.
rent
Right.
house. We need to expect X in return. What is X? A security person that is there in case has value. I don't think it's $1,500 a month, in my opinion. So there's more services that we should be requiring.
Okay.
What are those? Is it garbage? Is it mowing? Is it cleaning the bathrooms? Is it all the above? I think it might be all the above, depending on the time of year. Because remember, what happens right now isn't the same that happens in August, isn't the same that happens in December. And so I think we need to look at an annual program and encompass the activities that will be able to be accomplished by this person or persons throughout the year. Because you can't just say mowing, because we don't mow in December, for instance. You can't say clean the bathrooms, because not a lot of bathroom use in December, again. So I think just putting the whole package together, security, one of the things that I know was effective that Shane did is he went through the park every night.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
That's a big ask. I mean, that's a scary thing to do, to go through that 85 acres of woods at night. And who knows what you're going to run into. But that's something that was very effective. It kept people on the move, okay? So I think we really need to, if this is the direction we're headed, to put together a comprehensive plan or program for this position that the city receives the most benefit it can while still providing encouragement for somebody to want to do the work. That's the other balance, because it's going to take, like Chris said, the right person to do this. Not only physically, socially, but to want to live in that environment. Would you want to live in the park? I don't think I would. I like my privacy a little bit more. There is no privacy there. I mean, you're in public display all the time. At any time of day or night, somebody can knock on the door. So I think that's the biggest challenge of this whole concept in this program is finding the right person or people to do the work.
I think there's also the realization that the job is going to ramp up at certain times of year and ramp down at other times of year. And we need to understand that there are going to be months during the winter where this person isn't going to be doing any of the maintenance pieces. And during the summer, they're going to be doing a lot of that.
Right.
And so, we need to have the flexibility to keep that in mind as well.
I liked what Bill said about an annual program to help define what the expectations are during different times of the year. Again, what training is necessary, what skills are necessary, how is this going to be reasonable, but also clear expectations so that it will help us recruit the right person, but also that they know what's expected. Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 4 members of our Parks Board here. Do you think it'd be helpful to get input from them?
Well, they kind of already gave us input. They already have.
So if we go too far afield, I'm expecting a hand to go up going, you're completely wrong. So,
Well, I think we're on the right track with, I think we have to define the needs of the city, and the staff knows that probably more than we do as far as like that maintenance and all that kind of stuff going. And I would like to see them kind of bring back something like that, because I personally think we do need some sort of park host or park ranger down there, and we just need to define what we want them to do.
so I would probably not use the park ranger term so much because that's got a different educational expectation, at least in my brain, because one of my friends was a park ranger for the National Park Service. But I think the park host, again, that clearly defined job description, I think is going to be important. Mr. Lawyer?
Just occurred to me, we had been using the term caretaker.
True.
Yeah.
Is host the preferred term, or should we consider caretaker?
The one that gives us the most flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah,
To define our own way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Initially, it was host, and it evolved to caretaker. The sign that we took down when we converted to a monthly rent with the Withams was caretaker. So I don't really care necessarily, but just let's make sure we have the right term.
It seems to me as though the read I'm getting is the council wants us to move back toward a parks host or caretaker position. If that is true, I would recommend that you vote and direct us to develop a position based around concept number 3, and then we can bring that back to you at the next council meeting.
And concept number 3, let me just
Was
for.
the park host.
Park host, yeah.
Park host. And we can go / caretaker with defined job description. Does it include, though, and then I'll come to Ms. Bradley. What I'd like to do is discuss separately. I know number 3 talks about occupying the Buchanan House, but there may be more than one way. And the other concern that I want to throw out there is that house needs to be occupied as soon as possible.
Yes, agreed.
So I'd like to press pause on, put that thought out there, press pause, and then ask Donna Bradley what you would like to add to this conversation.
I
before we
have a
move forward.
suggestion that you may or may not have thought of. Going back in time, I remember that this discussion came up because there was concern about having to have an employee of the city working in that position and all that entails as well, regular hours, insurance, all of those kinds of things. I think that was one of the originating questions about that position. I don't hear any words about contracts. If you contract with a person to do XYZ job for XYZ compensation, you don't have to provide all of the bits and pieces of an employee. So I just want to throw that on the table because I think it will be easier for you to get to the point of what it is you want that person to do by writing a contract, presenting the position as a contract employee. People would come forward and say, yes, I want to do this and I will sign this contract to do this for this amount of whatever compensation you decide is correct. Rather than going through the whole mishmash of, what the employee, which you, I think, originally did not want to have an employee in that position.
All right, thank you. So I think that may be part of the recommendation about which direction to go with that employee versus contractor, because both have issues, and especially with BOLI. I'm going to Councilor Smith, and then Mr. Walsh can come on down while she's asking her question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just to affirm the neighborhood association and audience members and such, we're getting away from renting this out to a primary person. Is that the direction we're heading? It sounds like that's the direction we're heading. I'd like to hear that.
So to clarify, we're talking about the park host role, job description. Where that person lives is going to be the second half of this conversation. So we're going to kind of.
Not a random renter.
Well, it can't be random anyway, because they're living in the middle of a park, but if we could kind of press pause a little bit on that, because I have some concerns I'd like for us to talk about, but on defining this job and what it is and what it will do for the city and what value we're going to get out of it, and then we can talk about the house versus RV versus tent or teepee or yurt or whatever we want to do. I know, yurts are really cool. Just throwing that out there. Mr. Walsh.
I just wanted to point out that you don't have to totally reinvent the wheel. If you modeled it after the Oregon State Parks program, they have brochures, be a park host, how to be a park host, becoming a park host, volunteering. They have, their processes. They kind of know how far you can push a volunteer before you push them out. It's supposed to be a little bit fun, but a very important feature at the same time. It's not just how much work can you get out of them kind of a situation. And I think that'll satisfy the parks, and again, that's kind of why I mentioned the RV is a very interesting thing, because then it's virtually identical. And then if you can do that, if you can make it almost virtually identical, then you'll have the security that the neighborhood wants, and you'll have a presence in the park, and you'll have some services, and you'll have the volunteers, because they have too many people volunteering to Oregon State Parks. And I've talked to them, and they said that they will refer people to us if they, people that pass their screening that don't want to, that they don't have room for. And they do have some presents that are, sometimes you have more than one. And sometimes you have one in the summer and one in the winter. And a trailer gives you the option, because they just pull out and the other guy pulls in. So you don't have to move a whole house and all that kind of thing. So, but just some things that you don't have to reinvent everything. But to keep your expectations a little more minimal, but you're not giving them as much either.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Council President Freeman.
I think I sit too close to you sometimes. So I appreciate Bill's comment in reference to security and walking the park at night. And it is a big park, and it's dark down in there. And I just think that whatever role this takes, I think we have to be explicitly clear on what we're asking, and because I don't know that I'd want to walk that park at night, even if it was two people walking the park at night. I think it's just something we need to look at and to make sure that if it's our park host volunteer, however we deem that, we want them, whomever they are, to be safe, and and we want the city to be safe, and we want all citizens to be safe. So I think it's just something that staff will walk through and determine what all those potential options would be. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lawyer.
Madam Mayor, this thought just occurred to me, and throw something at me if you think this is a horrible idea, but maybe we can do both. Maybe we rent the house and we have a park host. We create a place for an RV that comes and goes. It's a temporary stay that mimics exactly what Richard was talking about, the state parks program, that gives a park host traditional programs already created. We just copy it, and we rent the house too.
I agree.
Just a thought.
Well, that occurred to me, especially when we were talking about the RV and so forth. And another concern, so are we ready to pivot right now? We've kind of given the city manager and Public Works an idea of kind of where we're thinking on the park host role. Now the facility, and here's my number one concern. The house is empty, and we got to get somebody in there as soon as possible, because otherwise, and we're already having problems, and that's a public facility. We need to make sure we're good stewards of it, and we've got to make sure that we have a resident in there, appropriate one, but who understands they're living in a park, and there's going to be concerts this summer, but I'm concerned about being vacant. So, and I know Mr. Holland, do you want to speak to this part? Come on down. since you live down there half the time anywhere during the summer.
Yeah, well, I am down there a lot, so I see a lot of things that probably other people don't see. My goal always down there, I first of all have to protect the city. I have to protect the fans that are there to see the concerts, and then I have to protect KRA. When I was here the last time, we had an incident over at the Big Toy where somebody pulled a gun and went down the river, okay? Just happened last week. I think somebody just broke into the houses there, right? They broke into them. Part of it's because what you're talking about, they're empty. They broke into our storage room, kind of damaged the doors, and they broke all the hinges on the locks and stuff. So I'm a guy that's in favor of somebody in there, because the city can't afford, and I can't afford, to have something go wrong, because the liability would be really great. If it wasn't for him and his officers, I think we would have had more problems over the years. And it's a simple thing to do out there for the protection. But that place is getting so big, and there's a lot of strange characters that are floating through that park. So thank you for what you've done to help out there.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Holland? And are we going to, by the way, look, Clint, are we going to get the concerts scheduled soon?
Yes, I'll be at the next city council meeting, and I'll bring the schedule. It's a big schedule this year.
Of course it is.
It's the largest we've done.
Of course it
And the biggest
is.
bands that we've done. So.
Bigger and better every year.
Yeah.
All right.
Good job.
Which is to the point, if you're going to live anywhere near the park, right, Mr. Walsh, you better be wanting to enjoy the concerts, because you're going to hear them whether you like it or not. City Manager, your thoughts? Because you've got to, you are the implementer.
Well, my thought would be to avoid some of the concerns that Richard Walsh has brought up about having a direct renter, and some of you have also expressed some concerns about that. I would suggest that we move forward with a park host and put them in the house as soon as possible, and then we can develop the RV piece later, and perhaps we end up with two park hosts, one that would be supplemental during the summer and one that's full-time. So if that's the direction, if that direction feels good to you, then allow us to develop it some, we'll bring it back.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was some concern about safety, somebody walking the premises. I envision seeing somebody on a quad or something running around there rather than walking.
Yeah, we have a quad.
And it's a lot of, well, skateboard, scooter, we'll have to work on that, yeah. So that's the recommendation of the city manager. And again, the concern is with the security of the facility, it is empty. And to go through a recruitment for a person to be a park host right now, while we're in the, I mean, that person would have to understand this is going to be a work in progress over the next year, and maybe be part of developing the expectations of this position. That's not unheard of. Shane did that. He helped define what we needed down there and was flexible. So that's going to be part of what we do here, but it's going to have to be clear this is, we've got to go through an open process to make sure it is someone who's going to understand what the expectations are, and obviously not a current city employee. Okay. Awesome. All right. Is that the direction of council to go forward with develop the park host job description and to recruit someone to move into that house as quickly as prudent?
Do we have applicants now?
We do not. We have not opened. We don't have any applicants.
Although I believe we have a couple.
We've heard of some from some
presented
people.
themselves this evening.
Yeah, that would love to do it. Yeah, exactly. So just to be clear on the record, Council President Freeman, would you like to put a motion on the table to that effect?
Let's see if I can craft one. I move the Keizer City Council direct staff to create a work-in-progress park host job duty description and to rent or place the park host in the Buchanan house and look to other amenities if and when we need another park host in an RV pad.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to come back with a recommendation for the park host job description and also for that person to live in the Buchanan house and develop the second phase of that with a possible RV as needed. That was not an exact quote, but it's pretty close, I hope. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. That was a very good discussion. All right, let's see if we can scoot through some of these others, unless they require a more in-depth discussion. Item 8B, in order in the matter of the application of Donahue Schreiber for a Fourth Amendment to the Keizer Station Master Plan Area A Village Center Master Plan Case Number 2019-10. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney.
Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor, and Council. You may remember at the last meeting, we had a public hearing on this issue, and after closing the hearing, the council directed us to prepare an order to approve it. This is the application of Donahue Schreiber with regard to a minor amendment to the master plan to allow 2 additional signs. So we've prepared that order for your consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? All right, Council President Freeman.
I move that Keizer City Council adopt an order in the matter of the application of Donahue Schreiber for a Fourth Amendment to the Keizer Station Master Plan Area A Village Center Master Plan Case Number 2019-10.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt an order in the matter of the application of Donahue Schreiber for a Fourth Amendment to the Keizer Station Master Plan Area A Village Center Master Plan Case Number 2019-10. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 8C is a resolution establishing the Charter Review Committee. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney.
Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor, and Council. We had direction from Council to form a Charter Review Committee. The direction was to have a 7-member committee with 2 members being councilors and 5 members being citizen electors nominated by the Volunteer Coordinating Committee. And we have prepared a resolution to that effect. You can see in our standard format on creating a committee, we have Appendix A that lays out the purpose, membership, term of office, etc. So it provides for what I had indicated, a 7-member committee. We have a date tentative that I've now lost. It's in here. December 9, a written report no later than December 9 to council. Depending on how it goes, that may be aggressive or may be easy. Kind of depends on how often we can meet. The reason for that date is to make sure it's plenty of time to see if we can attempt to get it on the May ballot next year. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? Council President Freeman.
I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019. It does say 2018 on here, but I'm reading it 2019, establishing Charter Review Committee.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019. So that would be a Scrivener's error, City Manager, or City Attorney? Okay. Establishing the Charter Review Committee. Discussion. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one little question that I have in my mind. How long are we really anticipating that this will take for this committee? I mean, because I have some people that it would be great for this committee, but they really can't serve much past September. And so do we envision that it's possible that we can have it done by September? Or is that, would that be short-sighted to think that that's a possibility?
Partly it depends on the committee. That would be a very aggressive timeline. And because we're setting this to go through December, we could not guarantee to anybody that there'd be a shorter duration. So that would be something for a potential applicant to keep in mind. Good question. All right, any further, Council President Freeman?
So just to be clear, though, interested citizens will follow our normal volunteer coordinating committee process, which someone would fill out an application, they will come before the volunteer coordinating committee, and the volunteer coordinating committee would make their recommendation to city council. So this is not a direct appointment by any of the council. I just want to make that clear. So this particular task force could be open to anyone within the city.
That is correct.
Okay.
Councilor Herrera?
That's correct. Now, council members, will they be appointed or will they go through the process also?
The 2 councilors will be appointed. I will make those appointments. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 8D, a resolution establishing the Keizer Park use fees, repealing R 2018-2884. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney?
Thank you, Chris. Madam Mayor and Council, another fairly straightforward housekeeping measure. And the community center, we have some exemptions and discounts for city events. We believe that it's appropriate to have that for Keizer Rapids Park. Actually, it's not city hosted. That's a misnomer in the staff report. The section that we're looking at changing, section 12 is for actual city activities, not just city hosted. So this is something that we would actually do, like we used to do the public works thing down there. It's just kind of to clarify that. We didn't really have it in the rules before. So that was the addition. State law requires all fees to be adopted and a public comment be accepted, so the mayor needs to see if there's any public comment before you adopt that, and the recommendation is to allow for public comment. If there's no objections or questions, then adopt the attached resolution.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? Councilor Kohler.
I feel like I'm asking too many questions tonight. Thank you, Marlene. Appreciate it.
Hey, go team.
So one of my questions is this doesn't affect our ability to, for example, allow the Boy Scouts to have their camporee down in the park and waive the fees for that?
That would be a separate issue, just like before. So that would be a waiver. This issue is only to clarify something that was frankly kind of a given, but wasn't really in the rules before, and that is that if one of the departments, the police had an activity, I can't remember the other activity that we've done down there. I guess that was part of River Fair, which was different when the police, but we've had activities down there. We're going to have a 5K. What brought this up is the police department's going to have a 5K race in June or July. I think, and it was wasn't really clear whether or not any fees would have to be paid, because I thought, well, that should be exempt, but turned out it wasn't in the rules. So that was what expedited this. So.
Thank you. I just want to clarify.
Thank you. And we've had public works activities, and
Right.
things like that in our public parks, and this would not just apply to Keizer Rapids, wouldn't it just apply to any city-owned facility for city staff to do city activities? Okay. That's how I understood it. Make sure I read it correctly. All right. Council President Freeman.
I move that Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019 establishing Keizer Park use fees, repealing Resolution R 2018-2884.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019 establishing Keizer Park use fees, repealing Resolution R 2018-2884. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 8F, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to send a letter of support for a Safe Routes to School program and coordinator position in this area. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney, again.
It's busy.
Sorry, I seem to have missed it. Too many documents in here. Oh, here it is. The Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, or COG, and Salem Keizer School District are applying for a Safe Route to School program for a grant to hire a Safe Routes to School coordinator. This is a request that the city send a letter of support. So we've prepared a resolution for that letter of support and a draft letter to attach to that. The recommendation is to consider that and adopt the resolution if you have no questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? All right, Council President Freeman.
I move the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorizing mayor to send letter of support for a Safe Routes to School program and coordinator position in this area.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, authorizing mayor to send letter of support for a Safe Routes to School program and coordinator position in this area. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. I'd be delighted to sign that letter. All right, that takes us to item 8G, which is a resolution declaring the house at 1990 Shamawa Road North, not Richard's house, Keizer, Oregon, to be surplus and authorizing its sale. City Manager.
Thank you, Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to admit, the thought of selling Richard's house is amusing.
It really is amazing. I thought it was quite.
But I don't want to spread any rumors, so let's just go to Shannon.
So we were thinking of moving the house while he was still in it, but and then we got the addresses mixed up. And thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor, and Council. I've been working with Bill on this issue. We've had some folks express interest in the house in terms of moving it. So obviously, as I mentioned when Mr. Walsh was testifying, we're not looking at selling the property. That's a much bigger deal. This is surplusing it as personal property, if you will, to be severed from the land and possibly moved. So if you pass this motion, this is under our process for surplus property ordinance. So just like we were surplusing a truck or something. If you pass this resolution, we'll be working with Bill for a bid process to see if who might be interested in doing that, and to see if we can get that off of there. 'Cause it's just not worth fixing. I think we determined after looking at it several times it's just not worth trying to fix. So the recommendation is, if you have no questions, to adopt this resolution so we can move forward with that process.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the staff report? So once this is surplus, do we have a clock that starts to get this thing going so we can get this taken care of?
As soon as the resolution's signed, the clock starts.
All right.
I have, I believe, 2 interested parties now that want to look at moving the house. And so we'll put a package together quickly and get that out to them and advertise it whichever method we need to and move ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Council President Freeman.
I move this Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, declaring the house at 1990 Shamawa Road North, Keizer, Oregon, to be surplus and authorizing its sale.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2019, declaring the house at 1990 Shamawa Road North, Keizer, Oregon, to be surplus and authorizing its sale. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Consent calendar. Council President Freeman, what do we have tonight?
So there are 2 items tonight on the consent calendar. Item 9A is Keizer Police Department report on disbursement of petty cash funds for fiscal year 2019. Item 9B is approval of the May 6, 2019 regular session minutes.
All right, are there any polls? Council President Freeman.
I move the Keizer City Council adopt the consent calendars, item 9A and B.
Second it.
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Council liaison reports. Councilor Kohler, can we start with you tonight?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and I'll just make mine real quick. Waste Stormwater Committee is progress and a lot of progress is being made on the permit. The chamber board meeting was a real ramp up for Keizer Fest on the 8th and the 9th. Marion County Commissioners Breakfast was a lot of fun, and then from there I went to Weddell Grade School to the vocational presentation, which was a lot of fun, and then from there to the Bike Ped meeting, and then to the Latino Scholarship banquet, which again was a lot of fun. Thank you, Roland, for inviting us. And so there's a lot going on this past week. I'd just like to commend the chamber for the work that they did with Keizer Fest. And one other thing I'd just like to mention is the McNary Band took second place in the state OSAA band competition, which is amazing. I mean, it's, and as I talked to Mr. Nelson, the band director, about it, he said that there were a number of bands that could have been in that top 3 or 4 positions, and that he was surprised even when they took second place. But it was really says a lot for our program and what's going on there. And the last thing I'd like to mention is this Wednesday is a Keizer Community Dinner, and invite people to come.
What time? 5 o'clock at?
St. Andrew's Catholic Church.
All right. Thank you very much. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mine has also been a very busy couple of weeks, and I did a lot of the same things Councilor Kohler did, so I won't tread on those again. But in addition, I attended the Marion County Housing Initiative, where we met with the commissioners and some of the other leaders from the various jurisdictions to discuss their housing issues, and it was really interesting to see in terms of what we're trying to do here with what other jurisdictions are dealing with, and it was very informative. And Nate Brown was there as well, and he represents our city so very well with his expertise and his insight. So that was a really interesting experience. I attended the Planning Commission for Councilor Freeman, and there we talked about the mobile food vendor resolution that we passed tonight. In addition, we had the Urban Transition Zone public hearing that was extended, and nobody came, but it was very nice to see that we are so responsive to the needs of the community, and we want to make sure to give everybody a chance to have their voice heard on these various issues. So we are moving ahead with that, and that was an interesting process to see. It's a duplication, but I just wanted to again mention the Latinos in Action Scholarship Night. It was a wonderful night. Seeing those families there was just really inspirational. And again, a big thank you to Councilor Herrera and Pastor Dominguez and all of those involved with that night. It's a very important event, and I really appreciate all the compassion and the interest and the inspiration that goes into that. So thank you very much for all your work with that. I attended the Arboretum cleanup. That was lots of fun. Not quite as much of a turnout as I was hoping, but those people were working hard, and it was hot that day, oddly, but it was fun. I had board meetings for Keizer Heritage Foundation, Keizer Homegrown Theater. I attended the Who Am I This Time, which is Keizer Homegrown Theater's current play, and they go one more weekend, so next weekend. So if you were busy during Keizer Fest, there's one more opportunity to see that. And interestingly, it features our own Mike Jaffe, who is our transportation friend from the state, and it's fun to watch him do his thing in a different context. And so, yeah, it was a very good production. I attended the groundbreaking for the construction work that's happening at McNary High School, and that was really nice event, and I was really impressed with especially the students who spoke. You know, the students are having such a stake in this, and they're going to be sophomores and juniors next year, and they were just so very articulate and had such a keen understanding of the general context of what we're trying to do, and I'm excited to see their input in the school as they progress. We had the parade on Friday, and I just wanted to give a shout. Saturday, we decorated on Friday, which was a lot of fun. But anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to Todd Layton and the McNary Graphic Arts Department. They're responsible for our sweatshirts for today, and in the back, you got to see that too.
Yep.
And they do fabulous work. It's so wonderful to be able to have this resource in our community, and you know, not only do they make quality work, but they also are very, very responsive in getting things quickly and done in a timely fashion. So big thank you to Todd Layton and his crew. This coming week, Forest Ridge is visiting the Civic Center, and the mayor and I will be doing some hosting with that. That's Thursday morning. That'll be lots of fun. We have senior awards at McNary. I don't know if you were going to say anything about that. That is the Tuesday after Memorial Day. It is always the Tuesday after Memorial Day, and we get to honor our graduating seniors and the work that they've done, and they're just such impressive young people, and it's just really exciting to see them launch into the world if they can make it past these last couple of weeks, which is difficult. We have a buildable lands inventory housing needs analysis meeting on the 29th, and that is a public meeting. And again, we would like to hear as much input as we can from the community to see how you want us to grow. It's important to be able to manage our growth in a way that is going to benefit us the most, and so we invite your input. So please see the city website for further information on that. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Council President Freeman.
Wow, I have a lot to follow. I just want to thank Councilor Reed for attending the Planning Commission for me while I was out on vacation, and I too want to echo our great sweatshirts, T-shirts, and/or zip-up hoodies that Councilor Reed put together for us, and the McNary Graphic Arts Department. I think we looked pretty. Great on the flow. I'm careful with my word there. But it was nice to be able to reflect these sweatshirts, T-shirts on the parade route Saturday, and thank you to Councilor Smith for her beauty and eye in decorating our float. She was a great, do this, and so someone who's not very decorative, I very much appreciate that. And everyone that came out to support Keizer Fest along the parade route, the vendors at the big tent and the rides and all the events that have happened from day one, from the mayor's prayer breakfast all throughout the month. So really, the chamber, hats off to all the volunteers, and I'm sure some of them are very tired today, and hopefully we'll get a good night's sleep and recoup, and I'm sure they're already planning for next year. And just a note that I will not be here on the June 3rd meeting because I'm traveling for work.
All right. Thank you very much. Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was actually out on vacation, so a lot of the stuff I missed, but last week, it was a ton of fun with the Irish Festival. I really enjoyed our time together, actually, as a council, the teamwork that went into decorating the float, and then spending time on the float together and looking at all of the people along the route and just realizing the gravity. I was explaining this to Kathy, the gravity of what we actually are trying to do here from a volunteer perspective, and all the voices out there that we're trying to do our best in representing. So I just really enjoyed that, and I look forward to continuing to work as a team to accomplish the goals of the community of Keizer. So that's all I got.
And thank you for your help with the float. Very much appreciate that. Councilor Parsons.
Gee, I didn't have an exciting 2 weeks either, but I wasn't even gone. I don't know what's going on, what I did.
Priorities straight.
I know. I want to thank Councilor Herrera and Pastor Dominguez and the LAC committee, Latino Action Committee, for the wonderful reception they put on and the amount of scholarships they were able to give out to these young men and women. My girl that I mentored was one of the recipients of the scholarship. She has a full ride to the University of Oregon. That's the only time you're going to hear me say "Go Ducks." Okay. I attended a lot of the Keizer Fest activities too. The luncheon, the sponsorship luncheon. We got our beautiful iris picture. So I know Tracy's getting ready to hang that up somewhere in the hallway. I don't know how much room we have left, but yeah. And so that was well attended. I volunteered quite a bit, and there was a lot of people most of the time that I volunteered. So I think people really enjoyed it. After the parade, I think all 30,000 of them went there because it was quite the line, and for the rides and everything, and the weather thank you for the weather. It couldn't have been better. I appreciate that. That's a good job the chamber did in making sure we had good weather. Coming up, I have a stormwater on June 4th, chamber meeting. I will start participating in the chamber meetings now, starting in June. And then we have a collaborative business meeting also coming up in June. We took a few months off, but we're going to get right back at it again over the summer to work on our education and keeping our kids in school. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you. Okay, first the bad news. The Blazers lost tonight in overtime.
Oh.
But anyway, hey, there's always next year. But anyway, and I want to thank you folks for all you guys that attended the Latino Recognition Scholarship Night. That was very inspiring. We had, it was a great community event because our principal, mayor, council, we had Cynthia Richardson from the school district who's taking on our program and kind of expanding it, and also all the folks over there, Mr. Camarena, and we gave 18 scholarships, and these kids were a pretty cross section of a lot of different kids, but I tell you what, they all made it, and the scholarships, like I tell people, are not giveaways. They're an investment in our community. As we've told before, they come back, and we preach the circle of coming back and helping our community, because we want them to bloom where they were planted, sort of, like Jose Dominguez tells them very eloquently on the key to open their future and help out with our community. And I want to thank our council for helping this happen. Okay, now I attended the Latino Business Alliance breakfast or get together last Thursday, which was really good. It's always good to see old friends. I hadn't been there in a while. Cal Club, congratulations. I want to thank Chris and Dorothy Keel from Deal. Is it Dorothy Deal? Deal. From the police department information officer, whatever you call her. I'll tell you what, she was wonderful. And for the last minute, this is what happens in school. Last minute, we pull all these. But the Cal Club came over and they did a wonderful job. Thank you, Chris. You did an excellent job. And we're really appreciative of what they've done. And I give them a little test afterwards. And they did better on this side than they did on that side, because they were too busy looking at the cards and stuff. Also, kudos to the chamber for the great, I did attend the sponsors' lunch, well attended. And I'll tell you what, the food, they never disappoint. Those guys from the Hitching Post, that's the best food ever. I'm not kidding you. Also, I want to congratulate the girls softball, McNary softball team for winning the league. So I want to mention that to you girls wherever you are. And
anything to say.
They were amazing. Is that something? Oh, I just. Okay. The other thing I was going to remind folks is please get your ballots in. It's very important that we vote and we exercise our right there. And the last thing I had was mano a mano. It's a busy time with budget for us, and we've been meeting twice last year, so we're getting ready for another fiscal year. So that's pretty much all I have. And again, thanks again to all you guys, and we really appreciate it. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Youth Councilor Ferris.
Okay, I still have some stuff, so that's good. First of all, sports are definitely in full swing, so make sure to support your McNary Celtics in the various sports that are currently happening. It's amazing all the stuff that's going on, including the McNary Softball Championships. Congratulations, you guys. Secondly, there's a McNary-wide orchestra festival that's tomorrow from 7 to 8 p.m. So that's going to be a great opportunity to see our fine arts department. The Eagle Feather graduation ceremony will be on the 22nd at 6 p.m. There is going to be a coffee shop concert at McNary from 7 to 9 p.m. on the 22nd as well. And along with that, there's also going to be the McNary Area Jazz Festival, same day, 7 to 9 p.m. or 5:30 to 9 p.m. So ticket sales for the McNary graduation party start on the 28th for both lunches. So be sure to buy tickets. The senior banquet is from 6 to 8 p.m. on the 29th. The Keizer Community Band performance is coming up on the 29th as well from 7 to 9. And The end of season awards for baseball will be on the 30th from 6:30 to 8. Also, there is going to be McNary's Write Club's Word Slam and book release on May 30th, Tuesday, May 30th at 7 p.m. at the Keizer Homegrown Theater. And if you want to go to the book release party, it's at 6:30, right before that. So be sure to come and support all our writers from around. There's also McNary Theater's Golden Onion Awards. That's coming up. So the 31st from 7 to 9:30 p.m. It's going to be a blast. And congratulations for all McNary seniors. The scholarship totals have exceeded 2018's total of $8.4 million. The current total for the class of 2019 is $8.8 million in scholarships.
Bravo, bravo.
Yeah. Specifically, congratulations to Angel Lopez for the Ford Scholarship winner for 2019. It covers 90% of cost of attendance at any school of his choice. And Angel plans to attend the Oregon State University's.
There we go.
And he's going to be studying engineering there.
That's the school. Yeah.
Additionally, congrats to Maya Luscombe and Grace Trammell for winning the 2019 Keizer Distinguished Young Women's Scholarship. It was an amazing event. I saw so many pictures, and it looked like a great time. I was going to also say that McNary Band got second in state, so congrats for you guys. That's quite an accomplishment. And I recently attended McNary's Treasure Island, which was last weekend, and it was an amazing performance. So that's it for tonight.
That is tons going on. Anybody who says they can't find something to do in Keizer isn't looking. We always have a lot of choices. Just add a couple of things here. Volcanoes Advisory met on the 8th. A lot of excitement at Volcano Stadium about the new sound system, the new food vendors, just really refurbed out there, just a lot going on. And I encourage people to embrace and support our local Keizer Salem volcanoes. The players will start arriving the second week of June, and the College All-Stars game will be on June 12th. And yours truly is getting this arm warmed up for that first pitch. So see if I can get it all the way in the glove this time and not hit the dirt right in front of it. So I'm working on it. Let's see, I got to go to Well Elementary with counselors Reed and Kohler. So I got to talk to students about one of the volunteer careers, which is what I'm doing here as the mayor of a city, and great conversation with a class of fourth graders. Very smart young people, and asked some great questions about what it takes to be a city, to do community together. And I really enjoyed that visit. On the 11th, we had the monthly Coffee with Kathy at El Patron. Thank you for being a great host venue. And I want to thank Betty Hart from the Keizer Fire District and Colleen Bush from the Salem Area Mass Transit District for attending and often attending these. So when people come to these coffees, they get a threefer. You get city, fire, and transit folks to talk to and find out what's going on in our community. The Keizer Fest kickoff dinner was great with the McNary Contemporary Music Program, Flex Tones, and Dance Hall Days. And indeed, the band selections this year were amazing. I really enjoyed it. My husband and I went that night and on Saturday night. Ty Curtis, yes. But great support from the community for Keizer Fest and great work on the part of the organizers of that great event. SEDCOR, the Strategic Economic Development Corporation Board, met here at Keizer for the first time, and about half a dozen or so of the board members had never been in this building before. So it was their chance to come and visit us for the first time, and they got to hear from Nate Brown, representing our development department, Lyndon Zeitz representing the chamber, and myself about what it's like to do business in Keizer and why we're a great place to do business and grow a business. So I want to thank them for coming out here and learning about Keizer. the McNary groundbreaking. Please look up for that on Facebook for the video of that. Really excited about the new CTE, science and music, and expanded facilities for our students. I want to thank the Copper Creek, I love them too. Creekside for being the sponsors for the Mayor's Pet Parade, which benefited the Willamette Humane Society. And my dog Millie got to be in that for the first time this year. I want to thank Marcia for driving me in Dave Wallery's Corvette this year. And she's a very smooth driver, Dave, so there. But also for everybody who turned out for the parade. It was a great community celebration. This morning I went to a meeting with a PGE that they were talking, this is a Portland General Electric, and it was about resiliency and clean energy. They're working to get local elected officials more up to speed about what their efforts are in regards to those two key areas. And I talked with Maria Pope, who's the CEO, about having our city council maybe do a tour at the facility here off of Kale Avenue, just so we can learn more about what PGE is doing in terms of resiliency, storm preparedness, and other issues that we face, not only in terms of our economic development, but also resiliency and making sure that we know how to respond appropriately when storms hit, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be working with, to make sure that we can do a tour probably later in the summer or early fall, because I know a lot of our work sessions are already booked. But I thought that would be a great way for us to become more informed about what's going on there. What's coming up is the Salem Keizer Coalition for Equality Luncheon on the 22nd, and I'll present the proclamation. The Forest Ridge Elementary got mentioned. Later that same day is the Mid-Willamette Homeless Initiative Steering Committee. We'll meet on, again on the 23rd at 3 o'clock, and we'll be going over the progress we're making regarding our application for continuum of care. Keizer Homegrown Theater closing this weekend. I know my husband and I and friends will be attending. At SCATS on the 28th, which is the Salem Keizer Area Transportation Study, we will be holding a public hearing and deliberation to adopt the Regional Transportation System Plan for 2019-2043. No, they're not going to do the next one in 2044. This gets redone every 4 years and just the dates get moved. That's a good thing because I don't want to be there in 2044 going, well, I think we kind of got it right. And again, I cannot emphasize enough to invite people to come on the 29th for the Building Lands Inventory, Housing Needs Analysis, Open House, 7 o'clock, be here. A lot of great information. That is all I have under Liaison Reports. So let's go then to other business. This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. City manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Debbie? Tim? Chief?
We graduated 3 reserve officers last Friday night and a regular full-time employee officer the previous Friday. We'll get those before you here shortly.
Very good.
Wonderful.
Bill?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Shannon?
Nothing, thanks.
So question for Mr. Lawyer.
Sure.
So thanks to the contractor for making sure River Road was clean and ready to go for the parade. There was a lot of discussion about that, and they were true to their word. So that project is going to resume, and what timeline are we looking at?
I think they're going to start back up this week. They should be done about early July, and then right after that we should be seeing the paving of River Road at night. And I haven't seen the schedule for the paving yet. I hope to see that yet this week. So as soon as we know, we'll get it out and let everybody know.
Very good, thank you.
You bet.
I have a question for Bill, too.
Councilor-
It's actually a comment. I want to thank your Public Works guys that worked on Saturday after the parade. They were so prompt in picking up all the signs and all the blocked off things and taking them away, and they did an absolute wonderful job. And they were very respectful of the drivers and everybody around them. So please thank them for me.
I will, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Written communication, I wanted to share with you a graduation announcement we received from a former youth counselor, a young man named Ryan Edsel, who on Thursday graduated from Virginia Military Institute with his degree in the Bachelor of Arts, major in economics and business. And he also included a picture, I don't know if we can get this on camera, of himself in uniform. I don't know if we can get close enough. Yep, there we go. That one. Okay. So I also posted this on my Facebook page, but I want to congratulate Ryan for tremendous accomplishment, and I remember him as a youth counselor, and distinguished himself in that service, and apparently has continued that tradition of service. So I'll pass this around so you can see it, and congratulations to Ryan. We have some other written communication. I'd like to turn it over to Councilor Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I received over the weekend a few letters from some of our businesses along Cherry Avenue, and I would just like to read them for the record. This first one is from Barbara Hiddle. She owns the Red Bee Barber and Styling on Cherry Avenue. She's been there for over 17 years. She said, I support the Keizer Festival. When Keizer Iris Festival starts, the chamber comes over to see what they can do to make the week easier on the businesses. This year, they had more open business signs so people would know they were open. Every year, it seems to be getting easier. During the time the festival is going on, yeah, business is slower, but my customers are adapting to it because it is only for a few days, and I believe in supporting Keizer. Sorry. Sorry about that. This one is from the American Classic Barbershop, and he's in the same parking as JC Pizza, that area there. Dear City Council members, as a Keizer business owner, I want to thank you all for your hard work you folks put into the Keizer Fest. It was fantastic, another home run. I'm so thankful. All the activities are literally feet from my business. I own and operate American Classic Barbershop, which is located in the parking lot. 3 years ago, I was a bit uneasy about the road closures from Iris Fest, but I quickly learned that not only did it not hurt my business, it brought me new clientele. All the exposure from the foot traffic was fantastic. In the past 2 years, I've turned away potential clients from the Keizer Fest. 2 years ago, there were 3 barbers in my shop, so plenty of barbers, but not enough to keep up with the day-to-day demand, even outside of Keizer Fest. So now he's does appointment only now because he's so busy. Even though the Cherry Street entrance is blocked, I still have potential customers walking in that I was unable to accommodate. I've been in this location nearly 10 years, and again, I say thank you. Keep it up. I love Keizer. Another comment that he made to me that he didn't put in here was he loved to hear the sounds of the kids on the ride screaming. He thought that was the best thing yet. This one came from Travis York, York Custom Mechanical. They also are right there in the middle off of Cherry Avenue. Although the weather didn't fully cooperate, as a small business right in the heart of the festivities, we had a blast. Every year we look forward to the setup and volunteering wherever we can. This year we helped with some of the food truck needs and got some really good meals. My kids loved it as well. We spent a good couple of dollars riding rides, eating food, and playing games. Luckily, our shop is right there next to the chamber, so when the weather hit, we just ran over there and got dry. I also want to compliment Danielle for all her hard work and coordination. She did a great job. Thank you, everyone. Always a blast. Travis York with York Custom Mechanical. And the last one is from the Salem Keizer Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever it is, Academy, located, I can't say that word, at 4122 River Road. If you don't know, they're on the corner, I think, of, what is it? Right on the Cherry, or Mambrin, or what was that street? Anyway, they're right there. Okay. My husband and I own this Salem, located at 4122 River Road. I wanted to pass along some feedback on our experience as business owners. The coordinators communicated with us about the event and road closures. They arranged for another parking lot for our members to use on the day of the parade since our entrances were blocked off, and it worked out really well. Overall, we're really happy with everything, and we think the Iris Festival is a great thing for the community, and we support it. It takes a little extra coordinating from us, but it's only once a year, and we're happy to be flexible. Best, Michelle and James Pupola. So that's just a few, guys, of the comments I got from the area businesses in Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association supporting the Iris Fest. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, and I'm glad that it was a success for the businesses as well as the community. Thank you. All right, agenda input. On June 3rd, 7 p.m., we will meet in regular session. On June 10th, we will have a work session, and I don't remember if we have a topic yet. If not, we will check back on that one. And on June 17th, we will meet at 7 p.m. in regular session. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I forgot to mention one thing. I want to thank our junior counselors here because it turns out they were the master decorators for our event. And and Dan was well prepared. I mean, and Elizabeth was great. But I really enjoyed the teamwork, the team building. Really, is what it was. That we had a lot of fun, and they put up with me. So I tell you what, thank you, Dan and Elizabeth. So thank you.
All right.
About the rest of us.
Chopped liver, I guess.
We'll just sit back and watch them next year. How's that?
Okay, then. All right. The time is 9:30, and we are adjourned. One thing real quick, if we could.